Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies. Welcome back to the Midnight Black Mass. We are on the air. It is I, your host, the devil you know, the maniacal minister of the occult, the Reverend Dan Wilson, here for another edition of our broadcast. Our guest tonight will be the Empire Wrestling owner, Mr. Drew Delight. I know I promised you part 2 of Bobby Hayes. Ran into a schedule conflict, but we're rocking and rolling. I got guests lined up, so I got you covered. Matter of fact, we're announcing right now tonight a new format on the Midnight Black Mass to prevent burnout, but to also keep a fire under my ass. What I am going to do moving forward is we're going to run in a season, just like a television show, and it's going to be a relatively long one. I'm not going to renumber the volume just because we're already in volume 5 and it just doesn't make any sense now. But what we're going to do is we're going to continue volume 5 through 2015. We're going to end with a big Halloween show finale in October. We're going to take a break. That will end volume 25 effectively once and for all. We will come back in the springtime of 2016. We will start volume 6 at that time. So it will run more in a season capacity. It'll give me a little bit of a break when things get slow or busy sometimes. Either one of them can have a negative impact on the podcast. If things get slow in the interview department, it's hard to bring you regular content. And a lot of people are busy themselves during the holidays, and I typically am too. So instead of fighting all of that and fighting the pre-WrestleMania stuff, we'll start with the post-WrestleMania will be the beginning of our season. So that's how we're going to do it. Moving forward, volume 5 into volume 6. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being with us on the ride. And we'll continue that going on. Speaking of WrestleMania, what about that card? I tell you, WWE really delivered the goods there. And it's really exciting when they can because it has a good positive impact on the rest of the professional wrestling industry. The shit rolls downhill, so to speak. So it trickles down, and in a good way in this case, because they did huge numbers for WrestleMania. It was a huge critical success, which is sometimes the balance they have, often striking. And in this case, they delivered. I don't think if you're a wrestling fan of any capacity, that show had something for everybody, and really had some new stars coming out of it. You had, I think, any dispute about Roman Reigns and his toughness after that brutal ass whipping he took at the hands of Brock Lesnar. I think he silenced a lot of detractors that night and probably won a lot of fans. Thoroughly entertained. We always get together, celebrate WrestleMania as like a national holiday. Me and my friends have done it for years, back to since we were kids, but now it seems to be catching on throughout the country. WrestleMania fever strikes. And I am lucky because I get to extend it one more week because Empire Wrestling, who I'm involved with heavily, will be having their biggest event of the year on Saturday night, April the 4th. That's one of the things Drew Delight is here to talk about tonight. It's called Tooth and Nail 4. It's the 4th annual spectacular of what has become one of the top events in Georgia in professional wrestling. It's right there with NWA Anarchy's hardcore, with not NWA. I still can't stop saying that here several years later. How bad is that? Anarchy Wrestling's Hardcore Hell, which has been going on in some capacity or another since 1997, and has had some of the biggest stars in the world come through there. Hard to top that in any capacity, and they had a huge event this week. Actually, I'm going to talk about here in a second. But still, Empire is climbing up and making their name. And if it wasn't for Anarchy and Wildside and what the guys at Empire now learned there from the great Bill Barons and Jeff G. Bailey and that crew, then Empire would not be as successful as it is. So is very happy to see that they've taken that same formula and made it successful in a different part of the state. And it's just a testament to what they do down there, honestly. And as far as anarchy goes, I was very disappointed to hear that my longtime client, the Angel of Death, Azrael, jumped ship over to the Defectors group of the Platinum Championship Wrestling Invasion. Apparently, the Platinum's company came in and took Anarchy by storm. I get along with Steve just fine. He's a controversial figure, though. A lot of people don't like him. He proved why on Saturday night at Hardcore Hell when he led a contingent, making Jeff G. Bailey a babyface for the first time in his entire career. And the fans were cheering him and booing the Platinum Alliance, and Azrael turned on my boy Strychnine, cost them the tag team titles, and so the Devil's Rejects' brief 10-year anniversary run at Anarchy comes to an end, unfortunately, as Azrael turned his back on the group. He won't return my calls. I don't know what's up with him, but apparently managing from afar did not benefit us in this situation because we've lost a longtime member. I don't know. I'll let you know more if I actually talk to the man without fear, the Angel of Death, Azrael, and I'll keep you posted if I have any news or developments. But I have a feeling they're going to be stonewalling me over there at the Platinum camp. So we'll see what happens. I'm actually supposed to go on his Platinum's radio show here in a couple of weeks. So if I don't get an answer from Azrael by then, I'm going to confront his ass. You can better believe it. But in any event, one more big announcement about Empire's Tooth and Nail 4 before we get to other things in the program, because I do want to say that as part of the pre-show festivities, which originally were announced to start at 7:30 p.m., now are going to be moved back to 7 p.m. because they've added a live Midnight Black Mass fan Q&A. That's right. Myself, along with the Empire Matchmaker and 2014 GeorgiaWrestlingHistory.com Booker of the Year, Andrew Alexander, will be conducting a live podcast courtesy of the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. They're going to be recording this. They're going to be getting it all down on tape. And what's going to happen is we're going to turn the show over to you, the audience. If you get there early at 7 o'clock, come on in, line up. We're going to have a line behind the microphone. You're going to come up. You got to ask any question you want about the night's card, about our careers, about anything you want to talk about. You want to talk about WrestleMania? We'll talk about it. Any question you want about professional wrestling or anything else, come line up, join the Q&A. We're going to broadcast this all on the Potty Humor Network and BeyondRingside.com. Fast Eddie Lane from BeyondRingside.com, the founder of the Feast there, is going to be joining us and helping us make that happen. He'll be the special guest MC for the live podcast. And then just, of course, the huge card that will follow, headlined by the Steel Cage match. Empire Heavyweight Championship, Temptation Sean Tempers against Logan Alvey, going one-on-one for the title. Tempers reigning 1 year and 7 months going into that match. Logan Alvey, the hottest up-and-coming prospect Empire has. Nobody has been able to knock Tempers off the throne. Is this the night that youth prevails, or will Tempers continue his dominant reign? Who the hell knows? The only way you're going to know is to find out by showing up April the 4th, this Saturday night, 22 Austin Avenue, Rossville, Georgia, for Empire Wrestling. Go to EmpireWrestling.net for more information. We're going to talk a whole lot more about this card when we have Drew Delight on here coming up after the break. But first, the Revs rant. The Revs rant. The Revs rant. This week, going to rant just for a brief moment again about social media. Surprise, surprise, surprise. It's become a constant thing, and I'm not a hater of the internet or social media. I think it's a extremely valuable and resourceful tool. There's all this information at your fingertips. Unfortunately, it's like a loaded gun in the hands of an idiot, and that means it's very dangerous when you put people who don't have any filter or any self-discretion when you give the internet to them with free reign, then bad results often happen, and that often happens in the wrestling industry. There's been a lot of debate and bickering over the last few weeks, especially in the Chattanooga, Tennessee scene, and I'm sure that the other scenes, like Nashville and down in Lower Georgia and all around, all of the independent scenes have these issues. You have several promotions running in a small vicinity. So therefore, the pie is split many ways, but all are doing very well. especially in the Chattanooga area, you're looking at several hundred people coming on any one given night to go see wrestling, but a lot of bickering over who's got the bigger cock. Theoretically, of course, maybe literally, but mostly theoretically, in terms of who is running the better promotion. And there's a lot of shit talking the other shows. There's a lot of people who used to be friends getting in petty disputes. I've seen a lot of friendships just totally ruined over this type of behavior in the past, and kind of seeing it now again. And this is my stance on it, at least on the record. This is how you win that argument. Hey, you don't participate in it because who fucking cares? You promote your shit. You tell your shit is the best. You should thoroughly believe that. I mean, you should, but you also shouldn't be so blind to recognize the atmosphere around you. In the same respect, how you win that argument is you don't engage in the argument and you actually just put on the best show. You don't have to talk about it if it is the best, because the people will understand that and they will respond in kind with their dollar. So if you're doing business, then you're doing a good job. And the best way to win the dispute, the Game of Thrones of shitbird wrestling, is actually to just deliver the fucking goods and keep your mouth shut. And that's how you do it. And that's a very simple formula. And I've seen a little bit of success with that over the years. Just saying. Just saying. That's all you gotta do. It really ain't that hard. That's all we got here for the rant this week. We'll be right back after the break with Drew Delight from Empire Wrestling. Don't you dare move your ass.
The Midnight Black Mass is pleased to announce we have become an affiliate of the World Wrestling Network at WWNLive.com, the home of the finest iPay-per-view and video on demand in all of professional wrestling, featuring promotions like Dragon Gate USA, Evolve, Combat Zone Wrestling, OVW, Shimmer, Shine, $5 Wrestling, and the vaunted Kayfabe commentaries with their U-Shoot, their guest booker, and their timeline series. You have to check it out. Of course, you can always go to their main page at WWNLive.com, but if you will, do us a solid, go to Facebook.com/PottyHumor or follow me on Twitter at Dragons Rejects. We'll be posting our own unique links to these events as affiliates. If you go through our link, they give us a little kickback, and we greatly appreciate it.
Autograph session, personal appearance, or live event, we got just the person you need to contact for all of those needs. SBI Bookings is home of some of the best stars in the wrestling industry today. They provide you with the best talent this business has to offer, from Kevin Nash, Larry Zbyszko, Scott Steiner, and many, many more. So who will you contact next time you're planning an event? The men of SBI Bookings. Check them out at sbibookings.com.
Saturday night, April 4th, see Logan Alvey challenge Sean Tempers for the Empire Heavyweight Championship inside a steel cage.
I beat them all. I'm coming to fight tooth and nail.
Number 1 contenders match between Bobby Hayes and Ace Rockwell.
Cause you're the last stepping stone that I'm gonna go through to get what I got coming to me.
Drew Delight versus Joey Lynch in a best 2 out of 3 fall.
I'm gonna whoop the boss's
Plus Tank, the White Rose.
What we did to Tank? Just a small example of what's to follow.
Saturday night, April 4th, Empire Wrestling presents the mega event that started them all. Tooth and Nail 4. Live from the Empire Arena at 22 Austin Avenue in Rossville, Georgia. With a special start time at 7:30 p.m. All seats are $10.
Wrestling fans, Anarchy Wrestling television tapings are the second and fourth Saturdays of every month at 4236 Level Grove Road in Cornelia, Georgia. For more information on Anarchy Wrestling and on the shows, to watch the television product, and a whole lot more, go to anarchy-wrestling.net. That's Anarchy Wrestling, the second and fourth Saturdays of every month in Cornelia, Georgia.
Where can you find 24/7 pro wrestling, MMA, talk radio, and more? BeyondRingside.com, featuring 24/7 streaming audio, including The Midnight Black Mass, Sundays at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, except for pay-per-view weekends when they run a mini marathon and the Midnight Black Mass goes on as its namesake at midnight. But don't forget the other great shows like Beyond Ringside, Wrestle Rage, To Be Determined, and more. That's BeyondRingside.com.
And we're back on the Midnight Black Mass, and my guest this week is the owner of Empire Wrestling. He also is a wrestler himself who had a pretty nice career, who got to travel around, was one of the top talents in the Southeast in his day, and he'll actually be returning to the ring Saturday night, April the 4th, as Empire presents its biggest show yet, Tooth and Nail 4, emanating live from the Empire Arena at 22 Austin Avenue in Rossville, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Drew Delight, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, Rev. And thank you for the warm entrance there.
Hey, you know, I always gotta give my guests the very best when they come on the Midnight Black Mass, and if I can't use my ring introduction skills somewhere, then they'll go to waste, and it's like riding a bike. you might be able to, you might never forget, but you still might fall off a couple times if you don't keep that pencil sharp. But nevertheless, man, thank you for joining the show. As I'd mentioned, got the big event, so we're going to talk about Empire. Going to save a lot of time to talk about that. But my introductory question is always, where did the fire get sparked? What initially stoked the flame that made you fall in love with professional wrestling?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you the exact moment. 5 years old, my grandmother's house. Sitting in front of the TV was almost a favorite pastime anyway. There was one in the home in those days, showing my age. But it was on Continental Wrestling, to be honest. And she reacted in a way I'd never seen her in my entire life. There was a dirty heel, of course, in the ring, and he was using underhanded tactics, and the referee missed an important call, and she come unglued, and whatever that was that made this woman that I adored react in this way, I had to know what it was, and hooked ever since, to be honest with you.
It's really funny. There's a common theme with grandmothers and turning people on to professional wrestling. That was certainly my earliest experiences was with my great-grandmother watching wrestling, and then Scott Hudson himself, even, you know, his earliest memories were watching wrestling with his grandmother. So it's a common theme, it seems. But I understand, you know, you see this person who you see in a reserved capacity at all times, you know, a gentle, nurturing figure in your life, and then the heel is cheating, and then she's calling for blood. Unglued.
Yeah, yeah. It was definitely a moment that has stuck with me through the years. And just from that point, you know, I started watching more and more and fell in love with Continental. That was my first experience. And then branched out to the larger companies, got a small piece of AWA from ESPN viewing, and then, of course, WWF in those days, and never enjoyed Georgia Championship Wrestling. It had already made the switch to an NWA territory at that time, but I don't think it was called Georgia Championship. It was almost headed to the WCW days by the time I'd found it, and a little bit of World Class with the Von Erichs. But loved everything I saw, every territory. Everything was just ate it up. Been a fan.
What performers had a big impact on you during those days that you maybe took something from later, or just kind of molded you into what you would become?
I guess everybody has their favorites, but it was all of them. I do have people that I guess, you know, wanted to emulate, whether it was Randy Savage or even early on. I liked a lot of what the Fuller brothers did that I saw in Continental, attached to the baby faces in the beginning, but whether it was comics or cartoons as a child, I've always enjoyed the the heel or the evil perspective in all forms of entertainment. So I was pulled to those different and the flamboyant characters. Adrian Street, first time I laid eyes on him, the Freebirds. Anybody that pushed the envelope has always garnered my attention. But as well have the more traditionalists. I like mat grappling. I like high flying. I like it all, I guess, which is why I'm for some reason ended up being a wrestling promoter here in my later days.
Well, you kind of get to indulge all those different sides as a performer. You kind of find what you're good at, your niche that you find fits and gets over, and so you stick to that typically. But in the promoter's shoes, you can kind of live vicariously through any number of different types of acts, whether it be a high-flying cruiserweight or whether it be the big tough brawlers, or whether it be the mat grapplers, as you had mentioned there. And so you went on into your own career. You had a pretty lengthy career. God, you were one of the first guys I met in wrestling, and you'd been at it a little while at that point. So how long exactly was your in-ring career before the most recent hiatus?
Yeah, you're looking, I started training, it was spring of 97. First in-ring appearance was 98. And then this last injury occurred in 13. I guess is when I left, so horrible with math, but roughly 15 years.
And you were the NACW heavyweight champion out of North Carolina, which you had quite a bit of TV penetration during that time.
I did. Great guys, great organization. It was a great experience. I very fortunate to been given the opportunity that I was. I'm very grateful for it. Have nothing but high regards to think about those people. They took a chance on a kid that they had no idea who he was, and anyway, we had a nice little run.
So during the 15 years, what goals did you set out for yourself initially, and who were some of your early mentors in the business, actually, once you got to working underneath the older talent who were around at that time and would kind of guide the next generation in as tradition would uphold?
Sure. Goals, I guess same as, I want to say the same as everyone now. I don't know that it's the case anymore, Rev, but at my time, I wanted to be paid to be a professional wrestler. Unfortunately, I didn't have any idea of what that required whenever I set out on that venture. But I did get to have a lot of neat experiences along the way. And the first guy to take me under his wing, I was actually trained by a local wrestler called, he's named Daryl Fargo is what he goes by, no relation. But shortly into my stint there in training camp, a guy walked in by the name of Kenny Arden. Kenny's worked in several of the different territories, I guess, probably a decade ago now, or more like a generation probably, 20 years ago or so. I did some work for, WCW Saturday Night as one of the underneath guys. But Kenny introduced me to most of the people that I ended up considering contacts in the business. I got to be around Terry Gordy, God rest his soul, for a little while, and I was around, even Tommy Rich early on. I got to be around Curtis Hughes. People that, I'd seen growing up that I was just some dumb kid that didn't belong there. I just got booked because I knew somebody, but they were, they were the heroes that we were, just moments ago talking about that I'd been watching, and here they were sitting in the same locker room. So I just tried to be a sponge. Wasn't a very talkative guy in the locker rooms early on because I was trying to soak up everything I could from these veterans. And not that I was around these people a lot, but any moment that I could get around someone that I had seen make this for a living, I was trying to learn what I could about the craft I was trying to get in. And then, that's when the lesson started to develop that I had quite a lot to learn.
Did you have like one favorite in-ring moment that you looked back that was like, this was the absolute highlight of that period?
The early days, yeah, I would think so. It's going to be a strange one for people to hear, but I had the pleasure of working for Ronnie West. That's another guy that I met early on through Kenny. Jack Lord's another guy I got to meet. Greg Hollander, who good friends with still to this day. But we were working for Ron West down in Athens, Tennessee, and he had lined us up for a battle royal of sorts with, it was a tag type gimmick where guys stood around the outside of the ring. There were 10 or 12 and only 2 people in the ring at a time. And the finish to the match got botched up a little, and we ended up being 2 guys in the ring that were not supposed to even be in the ring at that time, and the lights are on, and this is completely, real, if you want to call it that. And it happened to be a guy that worked by the name of Mean Mark in WCW. Big ass guy. Sorry about my language there. But
this is adults only, man. Anything goes. I know you got a reputation to uphold as a promoter, so use that with discretion. But yeah, you can say anything you want on here, man.
Gotcha. Okay. Big ass guy, and I'm 185 pounds at the time. But we've got no plans here. So anyway, it ended up with him successively power bombing me into an unconscious state. But as he did it, Ron West set up the arena where it had just the one hanging light above the ring, and it looked almost like, circa 1950s, I guess. So it was a very dim arena and just gave a surreal, old school effect to me at that time. And as I was coming to and they were crowning him the victor of the match, I just saw the silhouette of this giant monster standing there and sweat dripping off his forehead, and the realization that I was alive and that I had survived and that I could do it. Maybe not victorious, but I might be able to actually do this.
That's funny because I think if it wasn't that card, it was of that series of cards where we first met. Was working for Ron West, and the Mean Mark guy you referenced would not be. People might be confused. Would not be the Undertaker who wrestled as Mean Mark Callis, but was a fairly well-known commodity in his own right. Mark Kyle, who was Killer Kyle in Smoky Mountain, was actually a former SMW heavyweight champion, and I remember that program well.
Yes. Apologies there. My extracurricular activities are catching up to me. But yes, Killer Kyle was his name, not Mean Mark. And that was just a moment that has stuck with me, like the one with my grandmother.
Yeah, Ron West was a great guy to work for. There was a lot of I was really lucky because I got just basically shoved on the show by another friend who was like, hey, I got this guy here with me and he's the manager and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, okay, well, send him out there, see what he's got. And I couldn't go promo, and they liked me, so he kept booking me. Unfortunately, the show didn't last long.
No, it did not. God rest him, Ron wasn't far behind that. But yeah, he was an excellent guy, fun to work for, always treated me with the utmost respect. Another guy that took a chance on a stupid kid that didn't know nothing. But you brought up a neat fact that we did meet on those series of shows, and I coincidentally met Gene Spurlock, who was booking UEW at that time, or one of the Chattanooga shows. I think it was the little thing in East Ridge, but which is what led me here. I had never worked this territory to that point. Never worked, in the Chattanooga area for any of the shows. Had been throughout Tennessee, and had been into Georgia some, but never in Chattanooga, which is now home.
it is ultimately where you post it up. So, any final thoughts about the in-ring career that you wanted to share or discuss? As I think, since we got about 15 minutes left, we're going to try to hit 30, which, I mean, we can go into 45 if we need, so that's no problem. We're not rushing. But,
no, that's up to you. Sorry, man. I'll
no, you're all good. Just keeping cognitive of where we are is my job here as the host. So,
absolutely.
But any final thoughts about the in-ring career that you wanted to wrap up before we move on to this promotional side? Because there's just a lot of questions I have about that.
Sure. Like I said, I go on with the career all day. The promotional side is much more important now. Young workers, if you're listening, put your nose down. Don't worry about your ego and listen to your elders. And that'll be about it. That's what I would sum my career up, because I wish I would have done a lot more of that.
But as many people often find, and it is good for people who get that addiction to the business, as we have, there's often life outside of just the performance aspect. There's many backstage roles that you can find yourself beneficial in if you have some knowledge and some people are willing to listen. That second part is important, but still, you've managed to do just that in what has now become one of the hottest promotions in the state of Georgia, rivaling, I'd say, only Anarchy in popularity. And that's not bad for a company that's been an institution for 15 years and is pretty much the gold standard of wrestling in the entire Southeast. So to have two promotions that are almost of the same caliber in Georgia is a hell of a statement. And so what in the holy hell led you to want to become a wrestling promoter?
Just like wrestling. Wow, it was just being naive. I had been to so many different shows, and that was one good thing with Kenny Arden early on. You know, I traveled everywhere. I didn't have a home show, so we were always somewhere different. And that had kind of continued throughout my career. So seeing all the different places and seeing, you know, people have good houses and see people make money, and money was a small factor, but more than that, we just felt like we wanted to do something that was going to provide an environment where guys could legitimately have a chance to hone their craft. Because outside of what's going on in Cornelia with Bill and what's been there for so long, there was nothing this direction. For, you know, all the way maybe to Nashville. There was not a whole lot of good options. And that's not the entire time. There were good promotions that popped up. It was just for the mainstay. Nobody could keep it down. And it's been hard. I understand why. Chattanooga is a tough town.
It is. And I wonder why that is. I mean, a lot of people still blame George Goulas, to be quite honest. I don't know if it's fair to necessarily put the blame on him like 40 years later, but it is what it is. And, you know, people say that since he was the son of the promoter during a hot era and he was pushed beyond his capabilities, that people got turned off from wrestling in Chattanooga and never have turned back on. What would you think about that?
To talk about, you know, anything that went on with the Goulas promotion would be just, you know, me giving you hearsay in my opinion. So I don't know with that. I do know that pro wrestling was a laughing stock in Chattanooga from the moment I've stepped foot here. With that being said, I would say I believe independent wrestling is at its absolute height since the days that Goulas went out of business, to be honest with you, right at this very moment. I was speaking with somebody last night. I believe on the first Saturdays of any given month in Chattanooga, we've probably got between three different promotions, almost 600 or 700 people that are paying to watch independent wrestling. That's nothing to sneeze your nose at, you know?
No, it'd be nice if you could get them all in one spot, but, I mean, everybody's got their favorites, and everybody likes what they like, and so you just try to do the best product you can do and hope that they turn out.
but to look at it as a whole, which you have to do because we're all in this town together. That's not a bad little take. If you did have them all in one house, now you're talking about, what size level minor league promotion. I mean, who's pulling that on a regular basis? And if all of them weren't separated in a central location, I mean, Chattanooga is a town that I think it's ready. It's just, can anybody put it together and make it happen?
Yeah, very, very, very good question. But it's cool that you ultimately ended up where you are. It was sort of my goal as well in starting NWA Chattanooga. We had sort of the same vision in that respect, that, just kind of tired of the way wrestling was in the town, and I saw an opportunity. I didn't really want to be a promoter, but I had a guy that come to me and, was interested in promoting and wanted me to do it with him. And I was like, well, if you're going to set everything up, I can help. And then, of course, ultimately, you know how that goes. The other guy got out of the pool. Ultimately, he had left me with the whole barrier of the responsibility. And so, ultimately ended up brought in Big Wood, and he co-promoted with me until we shut it down. But I think that you guys are kind of carrying on the spirit of what we started there. And I'm happy, to just be able to put whatever I was putting into that to help you guys, because you ultimately have achieved what I was going for.
Oh, and it's the same dream, man. That's one of the promotions that I was talking about that, had opened its doors, but I believed in that place and wanted that place to work. That was another thing that I was naive of when I started, and I'm suffering from. As far as those split numbers of the crowd, as we were talking about a moment ago, I didn't realize the promotion game, and that just like there's a respect level in wrestling and there's a hierarchy, that's as well as in promotion. With you saying there about not really wanting to be a promoter, I think it's worked out for the best. And I would say that although I'm the guy that hangs signs and puts out flyers and does things like that at Empire, we, whether anybody else believes this or not, we're a family, and I believe we're all after that same goal, and that's just to make the best wrestling show that we can every time that, we turn the lights on.
That's it for me. That's one thing that, to the other talent that might be listening, that, a lot of people are trying to get into Empire, and I know there's a long waiting list, but certainly it's attractive to me because it is that. I don't really have the time these days to invest in some stupid show that's going nowhere, that, you're just going to do a spot here and there, unless it's, a big fun opportunity like Dragon Con or something else. I've been doing this long enough that I can pick and choose. I don't need to do it because I want to, and I want to be at Empire because it makes me proud to be a performer in the business. It makes me proud to be a manager, to have a crew that invests that level of time into the finished product to give people a respectable professional wrestling presentation.
Absolutely. And then on extreme occasions like April 4th, we're going to try to do it better than even we think we can. And that's the thing. We like to, it's not every show, but every once in a while we like to push the envelope as absolutely as far as we can possibly push it. And, that's tooth and nail for in a nutshell.
Absolutely.
We're just, I'm really excited about this show. I just feel like I need to say Andrew Alexander's name right there. I don't know why. He's the guy that is behind this every bit as much as I am, and this is he's poured his heart and soul into this thing, and I think that the Empire roster and that the management team, we're pulling for an amazing event April 4th.
I'm thinking we'll see a packed out house. Of course, we're all hoping for that, but if the prior tooth and nail events are any indication, it's right around WrestleMania season. It's that holiday wrestling time of the year that everybody sort of falls in love with it, even if they may have taken a break. So you can kind of catch them on that wave of momentum, which is nice. And I do think Tooth and Nail 4 is going to be something just absolutely spectacular. Speaking of Andrew Alexander, the Georgia Wrestling History Booker of the Year 2014, you guys came in with the Promoter of the Year. You came very close to winning that as well. Empire had a lot of accolades in that. Any thoughts just on winning the awards and having the respect of your peers?
Amazing, and really feeling undeserving of the recognition. We don't get our name out or push as hard as we should in the state of Georgia, and they have pursued us, and that is just humbling to have had any recognition whatsoever, to have two performers or two people in key roles win awards is, like I say, humbling, and we are, I can't express how appreciative I am of that. And it goes to show the hard work of people like yourself and Alexander and Tempers, who has bought into the ideal of what we're trying to do here.
Hey, absolutely, man. My pleasure. And I'll continue to do what I got to do there to help you guys out. Speaking of that, of course, I've talked about it here extensively on the show, but you've been somewhat innovative in this department. We don't see a lot of other indie promotions doing this, at least directly. There's a lot that are part of the the Northeastern and Midwestern promotions, but in particular the Southern promotions. Going over a lot of online content with the new video on demand stuff over at EmpireWrestling.net via Empire TV. Talk about your vision behind that and where you ultimately hope that to go in terms of fans, not just that attend the live events, but anywhere in the country or the world can see Empire.
Oh, we want a weekly television program is the ultimate goal. It's finding the time and the capabilities to produce it and make it efficient. That's one thing that, while our growth some would consider has been slow, we're pretty meticulous about what we'll release. We want something to be nearing good, maybe even great before we're ever going to let you see it for the first time. So that's really the hold up, just being a perfectionist. But we're hoping to progress to a weekly television series with progression to our 4 mega events each year that will be released on DVD. You can get the first one at Tooth and Nail 4. They'll be online soon. Long Cold Winter 2015, commentated by your very own, the Reverend Dan Wilson. An excellent job you did, sir. Thank you for that. But we're looking to, produce DVDs of the bigger events and have a weekly series.
There's a lot of opportunities out there. We've talked about this behind the scenes, but, with the various companies that handle video distributions like SmartMark Video or High Spots, with Empire being somewhat of an in-demand product, I think that the DVD releases, you might have an opportunity to really expand that if you talk to the right people.
And we're looking to do that. And I'm one of the producers right now, and amateur at best, but I'm pretty proud of the product that is going to be this Long Cold Winter 15 DVD. I think it would shock some people to see not only the quality of matches that we have and commentary, but our video packages as well, and then you wrap all of it together, and it's a pretty good entertainment option for a company that's just a small indie company here in Georgia.
And that's one thing a lot of indie companies in Georgia aren't really doing, and there does seem to be somewhat of an income stream from that if you can tap into that audience. That's the elusive, quote-unquote, internet crowd, but, it would be the people that fund these promotions like PWG and, what would have been Ring of Honor to a certain level, but now they've kind of surpassed that and have been bought out by a larger company. But, these more popular independent promotions, they get a lot of revenue off of this, and the South has never really been able to tap into that. So it would be cool to see Empire do that.
Well, the technology's finally I guess, unfortunately, we've been behind on that for quite some time now. But the technology has advanced to the point where pretty good equipment that was available to, I guess, the best of the best in 2000 is now, affordable for the everyday man. And the things you can do with this equipment is fairly outstanding. And that's only going to get better because with the speed technology is moving and how the public constantly upgrades, it just makes things 3 or 4 years behind so much cheaper. And I think we're only going to get better and better there. I think it's only a matter of time before you're going to see magic all over the indie circuit, similar to the NXT or what have you, just because the technology is going to become affordable.
This is good because there's a lot of talent out there that a lot of people don't necessarily get to see. Of course, with the advent of YouTube, that has certainly expanded quite a bit, but there's still even more room for improvement there. Glad to see that that's what Empire's doing. So let's going on to Tooth and Nail 4. We've talked about what's gone into the event. We talked about the rise of Empire as a promotion. Let's talk about the card itself here as we wind down the interview. Of course, the main event is but there's a lot to talk about there. You know what I'm getting at. But the main event is inside the confines of a steel cage. The only way to win is pinfall in the center of the cage or escape over the top. The door option is locked. Special guest referee is the Empire matchmaker, Andrew Alexander. The Temptation Sean Tempers, reigning now for over a year and 7 months as Empire Heavyweight Champion, will go in to defend against one of the hottest rising commodities in all of Empire, and a man who has the entire force of the Empire faithful behind him, as evident by the event 2 weeks ago, Mr. Logan Alvey. What are you expecting out of this match and these competitors?
Biggest match in Empire history. And that's a bold statement because there have been some cage matches themselves that have been monumental. Wars waged in there for, control of the company at one point, control of the landscape, but we have garnered some accolades, and Empire does mean something, and Sean Tempers is the champion, and he's a large reason as to why we've got those accolades. He's held on to that title tightly, and he has turned away all comers. And Logan Alvey has had his shot before. But if there's a guy that is Empire Wrestling, it's Logan Alvey. I mean, he's born and bred right here. He's cut his teeth in that building. He's grown in front of that audience, and I think he just might be ready to have the night of his life.
He has a certain intangible quality about him. He's not the smoothest technical wrestler. He's not the most experienced guy, but he's got an energy. I'd almost compare it to the Ultimate Warrior in ways where he's somewhat unorthodox, but he's got this energy that people just latch on to. And a lot of people have stepped up to the plate to try and knock Tempers off as champion. Do you think Alvey is the guy to do it?
You hit the nail on the head, energy. The guy is a little spastic. He does get a little disoriented in the ring. He does, you might even want to say lose himself a little, but that energy, it has worked for him in the past. And if he could ever harness it and point it in the right direction and bring it like, I think he can. Yeah, but it's going to take the perfect night. It's going to take the perfect match. Sean Tempers is arguably the best wrestler in the state of Georgia, maybe, throughout the Southeast. The guy's been everywhere. He's wrestled everyone. He's turned away all the top competition at Empire. He was a mainstay in Cornelia for years. The guy's been in wars. I mean, you're not going to put Sean Tempers in a situation he's not been in. So, yeah, possible, but it's going to take a perfect performance from Logan Alvey.
I think so. And, don't forget also, Tempers, when you mentioned he traveled the country, that's not an exaggeration. He was the NWA North American champion for almost 2 years and racked up many states in the union, including competing in Hollywood, California, live on television, defending that title. And he'd been all over the country, faced the best of the best. And now at Empire, he's a mainstay, and by hook or by crook, he has managed to hold on to that title. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Another big match is the number one contenders match. Ace Rockwell going to be taking on Bobby Hayes, or at least that was the advertised match. We now know that at least as of last week or 2 weeks ago, that Ace Rockwell was not cleared for competition and was not going to be, based on what happened on the Midnight Black Mass live, which has led to some changes in the presentation of the program. I'm kind of trying to take this journalist thing a little more seriously. As you can see, I was dressing the part last time, and we got rid of the candles. I think the extracurriculars there, no need in endangering the talent. So, but what are your thoughts on this whole situation brewing, and Bobby Hayes, who's got kind of a legitimate gripe about not getting his rightful due at the title?
Absolutely, about Bobby Hayes. That man, he's intense. And he has beat everyone he's been against as well, and he's been at Empire climbing that ladder for over a year now, possibly 2, and he has every right to claim, to want claim to that number one contender spot. Ace Rockwell, that's tragic. I don't know where his recovery process is right now. I know that the last time I spoke with his wife, that it wasn't good. He evidently was, severely burned, and the wax is hot. Eyeballs are sensitive. There is a hole that we have in our ring now from the exact moment that spilled from where the wax burnt through the mat, through the padding, through all the way to the wood floor of the ring itself. It was, I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll be there. I hope he's okay. That's the only thing I worry about.
Right on.
On that note, Empire will make sure, regardless of what Ace Rockwell's condition is Saturday night, we will give you something to replace anything that we can't deliver as promised.
And that's all you can do is be honest with your fans, and that's something a lot of promotions in 2015 can't seem to understand, and sometimes you think the fans are smarter than they are, and it's not supposed to be that way. You got to respect the fans.
Accidents happen in the real world, and I mean they happen in our world, and we have to acknowledge it. Like I said, it was tragic, and whether anyone else believes it or not, his health and stuff's more important than the number one contendership.
Understand. Well, we're going to wrap up here. We've got a lot of great matches. We could drone on about this all night, but the last one I want to talk about is you getting back in the ring in a bit of a controversial move, but now I know that as the owner, you have separated yourself from matchmaking duties. That's Andrew Alexander's job, and as the mark of a good promoter, the promoter promotes, and you let the matchmaker make matches. So you haven't really stuck your nose in any matchmaking situations because the fans have been happy, and of course the almighty dollar speaks. I understand that. But you've had this issue with young Joey Lynch brewing for a while, and now it's coming to a head. You're coming out of retirement, putting on the tights. Not been a popular move. Do you care to address or defend or talk about your actions here?
Well, I've went into great detail defending my actions at the Empire Arena. As far as here, I'll just say that I didn't think he was the right guy I didn't think he was the right guy to be the next Empire heavyweight champion. And I know the fans and Joey Lynch both have took offense to that. And I mean, honestly, the kid may be one of the best talents in the state of Georgia. I mean, I haven't talked about that at all, but that's just as honest as I can be. He's talented. He's unorthodox. He can go all day. But I'm hoping to prove not only to Joey Lynch and these fans, but anyone in attendance that this old body's got a little something left in it. And Joey Lynch disrespected me in front of my home, my family, the Empire Arena, and whether they agree with what I'm doing or not, I'm not going to be disrespected like that, and I'm going to get a lesson April 4th.
Stern and serious words from the owner of Empire Wrestling, stepping in the ring one more time on April 4th at Tooth and Nail to take on Joey Lynch in what has been a bit of a controversial scenario, but the people are certainly in tune, and they're going to be rocking and rolling at Tooth and Nail on April the 4th. That's going to do it, man. We're out of time tonight, but it has been an outstanding interview session here on WrestleMania weekend, and we appreciate you joining the show. Is there anything you want to plug real quick before we say goodbye?
Just April 4th, Tooth and Nail 4. You don't want to miss it. If you're going to an independent wrestling show, if you're looking for something to do, that's where you want to be. And if you need voiceover work, if you need anything done with a voice, Dan Wilson is your guy. Rev, thank you for everything you do for us, buddy.
Hey, my pleasure, my friend, and thank you for joining the show. EmpireWrestling.net is the website. You can find them on Facebook at EmpirePW or on Twitter at EmpirePW, Facebook.com/Empire Wrestling. Drew Delight, ladies and gentlemen, this week on the Midnight Black Mass. Folks, we're out of time. Thank you for joining us. This is The Rev, and I'll see you next week at Tooth and Nail. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold. I'm out.
Thank you.